there was a song that had Del on it. I think it was a Del solo song. And Del has a line, and I'm listening to it. And there's a line, he goes, "I'm up for brothers coming after me, apathy." Oh. And I was like, oh! And keep in mind, like, remember when, flashback to when you're like a 17-year-old, you know what the fuck it is. Sometimes you jump out the window with shit, right?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the coastline of Connecticut and welcome to the Shorecast with your host, Apathy.
I was a fanatic of Hieroglyphics, the Hieroglyphics crew, right?
Right.
Souls of Mischief, Tha Funkee Homosapien, Casual, Pep Love, Domino, Extra Prolific, incredible, top tier, amazing crew. Everything that they did, I love, especially in 1993. I was like at a fanatical point of loving Hyro. So shortly after that, I got down with this crew, which I'll touch upon later in other podcasts to talk about my connection with them. Alien Nation, right? And I was down with this crew. They were out of Brooklyn originally. So through that crew, I was connected with A+ from Hieroglyphics.
Right.
This was 95, 96, okay?
Damn.
A+ and I became friends. We would talk on the phone, rhyme for each other, play tracks over the phone, all that. Talk about knowledge and wisdom and sciences and metaphysics and talk about religion. We were just chopping it up, right? So he was roommates at the time with another one of my idols, Tha Funkee Homosapien. And Del was top tier, one of my all-time idols. His second album, which is No Need for Alarm, was a huge influence on me. And it was one of my favorite albums. I loved it, especially at that time, like I said.
Damn.
Okay. So him and Tha Funkee Homosapien and A+, like I said, were roommates. I call up A+ to chop it up with him, and Del answers the phone. And Del's like, "Hello, who's this?" And I'm like, "Hey," and I'd spoken to him before, right? And it was all good. I think I rhymed for him a couple times. And I said, "Hey, it's Apathy." And for some reason, I don't know what was going on with him. I don't know if he was lit or something was up. You know what I'm saying? But he's like, "Who?" And I'm like, "It's Apathy." He's like, "Yo, I don't even know why you're calling here. You's a buster." And I was like, bro, keep in mind, I'm like 15, 16 years old. This is my hero, right? By the way, I'm friends with Del now. Big up to my brother Del. I love
that
Del.
crushed his soul right there. It was down.
This is an important part of coming up, though. You gotta get thick skin. You know what I'm saying? You gotta be toughened up. But listen, I can't fault Del either, right? Because Del's an established dope artist at this time, and this little 16-year-old dude is calling, you know what I'm saying, from wherever the fuck ever, who he'd never heard of. So it's whatever, right? But I don't know what was up with him, but he was like, he called me a buster. And I was like, ugh.
I crushed your soul, huh?
Right, so he crushed my soul. So Del dissed me at one point, you know what I'm saying? But it's all good. Like I said, I love Del. He's a real good dude.
Well, at least he didn't dish you on wax.
That leads to my next point.
All right, what we got?
Because I was delusional at that point and I was coming up, and when you're a teenager, you believe all types of crazy shit and your mind tends to go to drama a lot. Del was on this project called Handsome Boy Modeling School, which was a project that Prince Paul produced, right? And there was a song that had Del on it. I think it was a Del solo song. And Del has a line, and I'm listening to it. Even after that drama happened, I'm still checking for what Del's putting out. And there's a line, he goes, "I'm up for brothers coming after me, apathy." Oh. And I was like, oh! And keep in mind, like, remember when, flashback to when you're like a 17-year-old, you know what the fuck it is. Sometimes you jump out the window with shit, right? So I'm like, it's on. This is it. And I thought I was going to have to battle my idol, who I loved. And I'm like, damn, and I'm walking around thinking of all these lines to do for a battle. And I definitely overreacted. And I never had a chance to bridge that communication gap, like reach back out And I think I felt embarrassed too. So my back is fucked up, bro.
Uh-oh. Damn.
I old man shit. But I didn't reach back out and, try to repair that. I don't think I even hit a A+ up because I think I was like, I'm not calling there and playing myself again. You know what I'm saying? So at any rate, that happened. And I was for certain that they dissed me, which kind of broke my heart at the time. But I ended up becoming real good friends with those guys. I love the Hieroglyphics guys. In addition to them being absolute fucking superheroes, they're just great dudes, man. Shout out to all of them. I love all those guys. And their music is so fucking important to me. But that was a funny thing that Del dissed me back in those days. And I love thinking about that.
That's just funny. That's funny as hell.
It is funny and it's hilarious. I love it in retrospect. The dope thing about Del too, Del was like really into anime. Did you get into anime stuff?
Never liked it. Still don't.
None of it.
None of it.
Not like Fist of the North Star or Ninja Scroll. None of that shit. Ghost in the Shell.
I know nothing of it. Nothing, yo.
Akira, bro.
Might have heard the name, maybe.
Is that nerd shit in rap?
It's got to be.
Right,
because listen, I don't know anything about anime, not from back then or to today. I don't like that shit.
Okay, that's fair enough. You didn't like Robotech when we were kids?
Nope.
Voltron comes from like the anime realm.
That's like the start, right? The kind of the start of it. Maybe like Voltron.
I don't know. I don't know the history. I'm not gonna pretend because you guys are gonna fucking come for me in the comments. Pause. But Voltron, I feel like Voltron was that style, those studios.
It was, but it was also like a race. There was a racing one too. What was a racing cartoon?
Speed Racer.
Which was sort of like anime too.
Right. I think it was Japanese origins.
There you go. I never liked that type of style cartoon. Never.
That's fair. Do you remember there was a really obscure one called like Cities of the Sun? It used to play it on Nickelodeon in like the 80s.
Don't remember it.
Anyway, so Del and them, the dope thing about Del too is Del had a huge impact on me with production and just style in general because those guys were so high back in the day, they just did a lot of really weird shit that spoke to me in the most profound way. Because they would have a beat and all of a sudden they would have like a stream, a sound effect of a stream, water bubbling in the background. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
They did all these really weird things that most people didn't do, or like cosmic sound effects, or all these little weird things, and I really fucked with that. And that
so they made their music unique, a unique sound base,
very unique. And then talking about the animation, I know I'm getting in the weeds with this because I know you don't fuck with none of this shit, but the Hobbit cartoon. The cartoon from the 70s. I fucking knew it. I knew you wouldn't fuck with this either.
No.
The Hobbit cartoon was incredible. It was made by Rankin Bass. So you know Rankin Bass.
I do know. They did
right.
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Correct.
And all the other ones, all the other Christmas ones.
Huge production studio, huge animation studio.
Yep.
But they did really cool fantasy type cartoons in the 70s and 80s. The Flight of the Dragons, all of that. And Del sampled one of those movies for the beginning of one of my favorite Del songs called Eye Examination. And that had a huge impact on me. So as a paying homage, as an ode to Del and paying homage to Del, I sampled from that, which is one of my all-time favorite movies, like growing up, hands down. I sampled a piece of that and put it in the beginning of one of my newer songs called Hammond Court Kids. But that's stuff that Hyro did, man. Hyro would really use obscure bohemian stuff, and that was really important. They definitely uniquely had their own sound. What were you listening to in 93? Think about 93 exclusively. You know what I'm saying? Like that time period.
Well, around 93, I wasn't East Coast, West Coast, so I was listening to a lot. Scarface,
okay,
Tupac, Wu-Tang, 93. Oh, Tribe
Right.
would have been big.
Tribe. So were you big into like Midnight Marauders when it dropped?
Big into that. That was a great album. So 93, what else was dope then? Oh, there's a lot.
So much stuff.
There's
man.
so much, right?
Yeah, so much stuff. Onyx was popping in 93.
I wasn't big with Onyx. I liked it a little bit, but they were screaming too much. I wasn't big with the Onyx.
Word, you didn't throw your guns in the air?
No, I just, I thought they were just yelling too much. I wanted to just jam and listen to some, smooth shit.
You know what I bet you liked is Domino.
Which one was that?
Ghetto.
Is that Here We
Ghetto
Go?
Pie.
Here We Go?
Yeah.
That was okay. It's okay, but
Sweet Potato Pie, my bad. Domino, Ghetto Jam.
Ghetto
the
Jam.
Ghetto Jam's
Yeah,
about to
yeah.
slam.
Snoop would have been what, 93?
Yeah, Doggy Style.
So yeah, that would have been played.
Right. That was a great time period. That was a very good time period. The Wu-Tang, Beatnuts had Reign of the Tech and all that out during that time period too. There was so much good stuff. Alcoholics, De La Soul.
Who was our big East Coast star in 93? I don't know.
Wu-Tang, Tribe. Nas was on the come up, even though Illmatic hadn't dropped yet.
93 was the start of our era.
It is. It was.
93.
93 was crazy. Just there was so much stuff that was coming out at that time. Like I said, too, De La Soul was cracking in 93. There was a lot of incredible.
I always remember 93 as a transitional era. It was when the big stars of the 80s started to fade and the stars of the 90s became. That was like 92, 93, right?
Yeah, 92, 93, the sound started changing. Like
definitely-
it started getting away. Like even like 91 had like a hint of that upbeat James Brown sample type.
Arrested
Do
Development.
the Running Man shit, you know what I mean? Like
It was, 92, 93 kind of changed. Oh, Redman would have been 92, 93.
Yeah, Redman.
So,
Time for some action and all that. Yep.
That's where I was headed to with Redman. A big fan.
93 Redman, like because they would work albums for a long time during those time periods, right? So even if it was the album that dropped in 92, What the Album, he would still drop like, Can't Wait was on, the next one, you're right. Can't Wait was on it. Tonight's the Night.
Tonight's the Night.
Yep.
That was the first, yeah.
That's my joint, bro. I love how that was so unorthodox of him to just flip it up in the beginning. Yo, Redman with Hurricane G right there.
Man, get off that old punk smooth shit.
Oh,
get with that
God.
rough shit.
Rest in peace to Hurricane G, man.
That was
I
dope.
loved Hurricane G. Her style was so raw and so East Coast and just Puerto Rican, Boricua. Like, she was fire, bro. I love Hurricane G.
She was dope.
Salute and rest in peace to Hurricane G, man. I feel like I didn't get enough music from Hurricane G. And Hurricane G, you guys should go search this if you don't know. Because the hip-hop heads, the real diehard crazy ones will know this. But Hurricane G had this joint that they pretty much only played, and I think Eric produced it. And I think they only played it on Stretch and Bob's show. The version that's on YouTube comes from Stretch and Bob's show, but you got to go search it out and look it up. It's called Milky. So look up Hurricane G's joint, Milky. The beat is incredible. Her raps are incredible. It was absolutely perfect, man.
So by 93, I would have also added, I remember being younger and listening to a lot of female rappers.
Sure.
And I liked Queen Latifah and MC Light. For 93 would have been those years that they were really good. Queen Latifah's album came out, UNITY.
UNITY.
That was classic.
Just
So,
Another Day.
Living in
The
the
Hood.
Hood.
I love
Yeah,
that
was
beat.
classic.
You know what else I like from that era too? Okay, so two more females.
Naughty by Nature. Oh, not females, but Naughty by Nature would have been those years.
Sure,
right?
Hip Hop Array, right. But going back to the females, I loved Boss.
Oh, but yes,
Boss was,
I bought that album.
You gotta let a hoe be a hoe. Ho!
Shit,
that album
that
was
was
great.
dope.
Shout out to MC Search, produced and did
did?
a lot. Yeah, he did a lot with that album. Def Jeff was producing on that album too.
Who did Apache? Because that was my jam. too.
Apache, you ain't shit. And then Gangsta Bitch. You need a gangster. Tribe Called Quest produced Gangsta Bitch.
Man, I thought it was Apache back in 93.
What?
The Timberlands, I was like, yo, I'm Apache.
You thought you was Apache 93.
Yeah. I'm looking for a gangsta bitch.
Yo, you know what's dope is when I got the Gangsta Bitch cassette single, it came with two stickers like that were in a rectangular shape. One said, I want a gangsta bitch, and the other one said, I am a gangster bitch.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Damn.
And I remember putting it on a notebook at school, and they made me peel it off. Yeah. They made me peel that shit off. I love the rest in peace to Apache, too.
That's right.
And that was a great record, man. That was such a dope fly record. And it's surprising I didn't realize. I don't think I realized right away that Tribe produced that record. That was interesting to me. But that whole time. Oh, also during that time period, Yo-Yo dropped IBWing with my crew in, and that was that record, that beat.
I don't remember. I wasn't big with Yo-Yo, so.
I wasn't super big into Yo-Yo, but that single, just the beat, it had this really haunting. You guys should look that up too. It's only on YouTube. it's not on streaming platforms. I don't know why, but YouTube, Yo-Yo IBWing with my crew or whatever the hell it's called. That beat was so dope, man. It was a really haunting melody. And that was the time period too where Run DMC, Down with the King. That
was their last little hoorah.
Pete Rock reinvigorated their career. Pete Rock took Run DMC and brought them into 1993.
They did.
In a way that they needed to be. Mm-hmm. You know, they had that other record on there that I like too, Ooh, What You Gonna Do? I really like that. I know it's funny because me and Self get into the weeds on some hip-hop nerd shit, and Self doesn't like that they had the synth sound in there because Self thought it was pandering too much to the West Coast on a real... I liked it. I love that. Ooh, what you gonna do? Never let a punk get away with murder. But Self didn't like that. I hope I'm not putting him on blast, but he didn't like that beat. But Down with the King was undeniable, man. That was incredible at that time. And Pete Rock was the dude to go to at that point in time, especially for remixes. Of course. He just came off the Shut 'Em Down. They just dropped Mecca and the Soul Brother the year before. Like, that was a crazy time period. Pete Rock was the one. Shout out to my brother Pete Rock. I worked with Pete Rock. I've known Pete for a long time, man. I've known Pete for 21 years now because I first started building with Pete when I got signed to Atlantic Records.
Has he done any albums, any records with you?
Yeah. Pete produced one of my favorite records of all time, I Keep On, with Pharoah Monch on it, which is an absolute dream come true for me. That's a bucket list record for me to do, and it's easily one of my favorite records I've ever done. But man, that was a crazy time, bro. Like, when I got signed to Atlantic, they wanted me to do a lot of like Southern stuff was starting to blow up, and really commercial and synthy stuff was starting to blow up. I mean, it had been blowing up, but
what year?
2004, like 2000, late 2003, 2004. Because also,
was lit.
Yeah, a few things were happening. There was a very polished sound. Like, it went from really grimy to like the grimier samplers that people were using, to like people using the MPC 2000s and stuff. And there was a very dirty, grimy sound. I'm sorry, there was a very clean sound that was coming out. So like everybody was sampling soul, because you got to think like all the Jay-Z stuff and all the Kanye and Just Blaze stuff was starting to happen really on a large scale. So even when they were sending me albums, it was just a very polished, bright, clear sound that I didn't necessarily love. So I told them, I said, yo, I want to work with guys like Pete Rock and DJ Premier, Alchemist, all these guys. So my A&R at the time, Mike Karen, he humored me in some of that. And he's like, yeah, I'll link you up. We'll link you up with Pete. We'll have somebody hook you up with Pete. So they did, and I got Pete's number. I'll never forget, I was living in Manchester, Connecticut. Okay, and I was living in the crazy mills where it was like the walls were paper thin. It was a big, tall, 25-foot ceilings. It was, because I just got signed, so I used the money to move into this huge place. I didn't have furniture or nothing. I was living wacky back then. I remember like having like a TV in the middle of this massive living room with like 25-foot ceilings. And I remember being winter, and I'm sitting on a little kitchen chair, and I'm playing the video game Max Payne. Do you remember that game?
I remember the game, yes.
Do you remember how dark and depressing that game was? I remember being in my living room at night with like a blanket draped over me, playing depressing-ass, horrible Max Payne, signed to Atlantic Records in those days, with like a huge apartment full of nothing. And it was a dope apartment. It was like one of those mill-type apartments with brick everywhere and stuff.
Right. I know what you mean.
And it was dope, but I didn't have shit there. You know what I'm saying? And that was the time period. I'm going to get back to the Pete thing, but that was the time period also, too, where I was in my early 20s. I was living fucking reckless, bro. Like, I would do dumb shit, like use up all my fucking plates and everything, load up the dishwasher, not buy dishwashing detergent, not feel like it. I'd have plates in the sink and shit, and then I'd get a big box, load up all the dirty plates, throw them away, and go to Walmart and buy all new shit, man.
That is crazy.
I was wilding out, bro. I was wilding out, man. I was just
reckless.
stupid. I was very stupid in those days with some of the stuff that I was doing. But at any rate, first time I talked to Pete, I don't know why I remember this, but like 2004, one of the spaceships blew up. Do you remember that? Like another one. Kind of like the Challenger thing, but something blew up. There was a spaceship, and my first conversation with Pete it just happened, and me and Pete talked about it. So my first conversation with Pete Rock was talking about that spaceship exploding. Can you look that up? Let's see. What was that? 2004. People are already going to know the answer. Spaceship explosion, 2004. Space Shuttle Columbia disaster.
Oh, the Columbia was over?
It was 2003. So me and Pete talked in 2003 because it was when it happened. Okay, so my memory's a little off.
Okay, Columbia.
So it was 2003. And I talked to Pete, and then we arranged it so I was going to come through to Pete's crib to listen to beats.
Where was he at then? Where?
He was a little bit upstate New York. I think Pete might still be there, so I'm not gonna say, just out of respect, I'm not gonna say with the town. But he's a little bit upstate. And Self and I went. So Self and I jump in the car, drive to Pete's crib. Pete's got a dope, nice crib, chilling. And first thing is Pete has he's got one of those cribs where, excuse me, the built-in garage, right? The built-in garage underneath. Yep. So we walk up to the garage door opens. There is a pile of vinyl that goes this way up to the back, and it's like taller than me. So imagine a pile of vinyl that goes like, I don't know, 18 feet back, and it's like 7 feet tall. Like it gradually starts turning into a mountain. But it's all stuff that Pete would kind of frisbee. It's not his like good collection. It's not his dope joints. I think it was just stuff where Pete would get it and just chuck it. And don't get me, it wasn't like a hoarder's. It was kind of a cool thing to see because it's Pete Rock. And you see this massive pile of vinyl. And I remember thinking like, this is the craziest shit I've ever seen, that Pete's got this fucking pile of vinyl just strewn about in this garage setting. So we go through the garage to his basement studio. And when you look, there's two rooms, right? There's a room to the left that has tons of vinyl, and then there's a room to the right, and it's separated by an open door. And that's where he has all the studio equipment and stuff like that, right? So I sit down and in the room with the studio equipment, and sitting on the floor is, like the old school, those like plastic boxes that you put discs in?
CDs?
No, like computer discs.
Oh,
yeah,
yes,
you know what I mean.
yes.
You know what I mean.
The floppy disk, yep.
It's like flipped to the side a little bit, and some of the discs are spilling out. So we're sitting there for a while. Self and I were there for like 5 or 6 hours working with Pete, right? So at one point I'm sitting there and, just sitting around bored, and I pick one up and I look, and it says Nas song or something like that. And I'm like, oh shit, maybe this was supposed to be a Nas song. So I put it down. I pick it up. It says Public Enemy Remix. And I'm like, yo, Pete, is this fucking World Is Yours? And Pete's like, oh, yeah, that's the World Is Yours disc. And I'm like sitting on the floor like this in this box. I'm like, yo, this should be in a museum, bro. This is crazy.
Exactly.
Keep in mind, though, that's funny because it's like 10 years after Illmatic dropped. So nowadays, I feel like there's a higher level of treating hip hop like we respect it like it's museum. But for Pete, it's like, oh, that's just an old pile of discs. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of what the application was, what they were for, And he's like, oh, yeah, that's Public Enemy Shut 'Em Down remix. And they were like sitting just strewn about like next to a whole bunch of stuff. And it was crazy, man. But I had a lot of
dope things around there, a lot of dope memorabilia and shit.
Not really memorabilia. He had stuff that I'd never heard, though. He had like Nas acapellas on vinyl that I have never heard. And I was like, damn, where'd you get that? And keep in mind, this is the time before all this shit where you could make acapellas.
Well, you know what's next? Let's go see Pete Rock's place right now.
Psych. Not this time.
Not this time.
Maybe
guys.
later. Maybe later Pete will come through.
My bad.
But yo, so that's hilarious. So by the way, you guys got to follow Al Mayo to even understand that joke. Follow my brother. We'll put up his info right
now.
So at any rate, so Self, it was so funny. It was a weird day. It was a really long day. Pete like made us like, I remember like we were like hungry. We didn't want to leave though. So Pete's like, yo, I'll hook y'all up with some ramen. Pete brought us some ramen soup, and I'm like sitting there eating ramen soup. I'm like, yo, this is Pete Rock's ramen soup, bro. This is a crazy life.
I know it's got to be really exciting, though. That's got to be pretty dope.
It was exciting. Self was falling asleep at one point in Pete's record room, just laying down. And then we also, one of the beats that we made while Pete was there, he picked out the sample. I was like, yo, Pete, fuck with that sample. Fuck with that one. It ended up becoming Ed O.G's Voices song.
Damn.
So Ed O.G. and Pete Rock did a joint together, and the song off that, Voices, was the joint where I was there when Pete made that, and I was like, "Yo, Pete, use that. It's got some opera singing and all that. It's really dope." But and I ended up not using it. I don't know why. But so fast forward to it must have been it was 2015 because my daughter was almost born. And she was going to be she could have been born at any minute. So I went down to New York to work with Pete, and I took the train. So I took the Amtrak down from New London down to New York. I go to meet up with Pete, and I'm working on the album, The Widow's Son. And so Pete's like, yo, come through, we'll work on something. But Pete was working on Pete Instrumentals Part 2 at the time. So I go to Pete's to listen, and Pete's like, this is no disrespect to Pete, it just is what it is. I get there, I'm waiting like 3 hours for Pete, right? And I'm sitting around and I'm like dying. And keep in mind too, one thing that I had to keep in mind, there's like a last train of the night.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's not like you could just do whatever.
Nope.
You got to hit that last train or else you're stuck in the city, which isn't be a big deal, get a hotel or something, but still. So anyway, Pete, by the way, Pete is a good friend of mine. This is just all funny to me, like looking back. So Pete finally shows up, and I'm thinking like, all right, are we going to construct something from like we did in the past from scratch? And Pete's like, yo, I got to go in the other room because I have a limited time too. I got to work on this Pete Instrumentals. He's like, I brought this laptop for you. It's got all my beats in these 2 playlists. And I was like, okay, bet. So I open it up and he shows me where. He's like, this iTunes playlist and this iTunes playlist. 800 beats. Damn. Literally. One had like 200, the other had like 600. Right?
You had to go through to find a beat you wanted?
Yes. So what I started to do was I took a notebook and I started to write down the ones I like, right. And then I had to make a bracket and go back to them. And it took me hours and hours to go through Pete's beats.
It's wild.
And I had so many that I really loved, but the I Keep On beat, I kept playing it and playing it and playing it. And there were even other beats that I thought were really super dope and interesting, but I was just also thinking about replay value. I was thinking about, what type of song I would do to it, how it would be performing it. I had to factor all these things in. So I Keep On was the one, man. And here's another crazy thing too. Pete loves to smoke. So sometimes, Pete, like everybody who smokes, sometimes things elude you. You know what I'm saying? So when I'm working on The Widow's Son, it takes a long time. Most of my albums, I'm doing albums faster now, but my albums back in the day, Honky Kong, Demigods, those albums would take anywhere from 2 to 4 years for me to make one album.
It's a long time, yo.
But I always had albums in holding patterns. So being that I had the albums in holding patterns, I would be always dropping something every year. So it worked out like that. But so Pete calls me, I call Pete one day. I'm like, yo, Pete, let's get the sessions and the stems for that one joint. I'm going to get Pharoah Monch on it, right? And Pete's like, oh, yo, bro, listen, Kendrick Lamar wants that beat. I'll give you 2 more beats for free. And I'm like, Pete, I can't, bro. I already got a song with it, man. I can't. I got the hook on it. And in my mind, too, I'm thinking, well, for the greater good and for Pete, it would be dope for him to have a Kendrick album. And Kendrick was bubbling at that time. Kendrick was starting, because keep in mind, this is way, this is a while ago. It's 2015, so even Kendrick was popping, but it was definitely like on the upward tick, and he was still ringing bells like crazy, Kendrick had joints. He was popping.
It's kind of hard to imagine that. Damn, Kendrick came out during around the Drake time, right? 08, 09.
Right.
So he was still 5 and 6 years in.
Yep. Right,
Crazy.
Correct. Yep. So at any rate, it ended up working out where Pete was like, yo, it's all good. He passed on that joint. That's yours. And I'm like, yes, thank God. It was a huge relief, because I was definitely down to figure out 2 more beats from Pete. And Pete's like, yo, I'll make you something right now. We'll do a better one. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm like, all right, maybe we'll go digging and shit. You know what I'm saying? And all that. Because Pete comes up here to Connecticut sometimes to dig. So, but at any rate, it worked out. And I was so happy because I had so much invested in that record already. Pete was on the hook. Pharoah Monch jumped on it. Pharoah Monch obliterated it. obliterated it. Like I was hoping he would do something crazy, and he did without me saying nothing to him. I just let people cook.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I used to make mistakes in the past where I try to give too much direction. I just let fucking people do what they do now. Like Premier, I let Premier do what he does. Pete, everybody, I let them do what the fuck they do, what they're the best at. And Mach came in with that peep the penmanship. He did that, and I was like, I put my head down on the desk, and I was like, fuck, man, I'm so happy. I just remember like the 14-year-old kid in me just was so happy that I had my absolute number one idol, Pharoah Monch, on that record, and he did something like that unique, crazy, uncanny, wild shit. You know what I'm saying? That Monch is famous for. So we finished that up, recording it, and then me, Pete, and Monch was out of town, but me and Pete went to DITC Studios with Showbiz. Showbiz was out of town too. Motif Alumni shout out to Mo. Motif Alumni was engineering for us. And I think Blackistan was with me too. So rest in peace, Blackistan. And we started rocking it. But yo, I used to bring my whole fucking computer. When I would go to when I go to Eric Sermon's studio and work with Eric, I would bring my whole tower, my whole computer, my whole setup. And I know that might seem crazy, but it's the way I have the shit set up in my computer. I can't just bring a hard drive. I have everything all over the place. I know how it is. I know my programs. I work in the program called Acid. That's the DAW that I work with, Acid and SoundForge. And I need everything to be the way it is in a particular fashion.
Would you still do it that way today if you were to do something?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You don't have a clone laptop that has everything?
Nah, I don't even want to work on a laptop. I want to It's not even that big of a deal. It just sits down on the side and you plug the cables in.
Nowadays, it's not a big deal. 10, 15 years ago, those towers were like,
bonkers.
24 inches. They were huge.
Yeah.
Like taking a suitcase.
Yeah, so, and it's funny because everything, as you know, everything in my life is Apple, all my MacBooks and my phone and all my stuff, but my computer, my computer that I work on is PC. It's always been, because that's what I came up working on. So anyway.
That was 10 years ago?
Yeah, that was 10 years ago now. That's wild.
2015?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's 10 years ago.
Well, here we are 10 years later, and we know of an album that's being released now, coming up in 2 months.
2000, what fucking year are we in?
2025, man. We're old as hell. We forget the days. We forget the years.
Right, it's crazy,
I think it's 2025.
New album that's dropping is called Mom and Dad. And this album is loosely, because it's not a total concept album, but it's based on growing up during the Reagan era. So Mom and Dad is Nancy and Ron Reagan. The whole premise is I was raised by the Reagans, because of the Reaganomics and the Reagan era and everything that was going on during that time. You fucking grew up. You got a year on me. So
I do, yeah.
What do you think about the 80s? What's your memory of the 80s?
MTV, rock and roll, start of hip hop.
Right.
I was a young kid right around here in the city of New London, in fact. I grew up here in the city. And I just remembered being poor. Loving hip hop, breakdancing, that's all that really mattered to us. You know what I'm saying?
I felt like with you saying being poor, that's so crucial because I grew up poor too. And I don't even think it was necessarily just people who were poor and rich, but the 80s felt like such a simpler time. Like we had a simple pair of sneakers. We all watched Sesame Street on public television. We had simple bikes. We did simple things. Our furniture, living room furniture, everybody had like the earth tone furnitures and the, what I'm saying, and the wood panels.
Plastic on the couches.
Not where I'm from, bro. We didn't give a fuck. We just fucked couches up, bro. The plastic on the couches is wild.
My grandmother had plastic. All my neighbors had plastic. The Puerto Ricans, it was like plastic everywhere.
Right. The plastic on the couches is crazy. And then what the fuck were we saving it for?
I don't know.
You didn't get to enjoy it anyway. No. What the hell event were you waiting to save a couch for?
If you sat on the plastic couch for just too long, you were all sweaty as fuck.
Summertime, because I sat on plastic couches. I had family and neighbors who had plastic couches. That was the worst shit ever.
Came up like tape.
Yeah, you hear that shit get Velcroed off your body there, suctioned off your body. Ugh, God.
Damn 80s, man. What an era.
The 80s was wild, bro.
The era, man. Damn.
It really was. So this album highlights a lot of that. This album that I did, Mom and Dad, is probably I'm the most proud of, and it was really emotionally triggering talks a lot about all the drugs that were happening in the 80s that a lot of people were doing at that time, man. There was a lot of designer drugs and a lot of things that were popping. The crack era, cocaine was wild in the 80s.
Well, I was in the projects, and I remember being around 7 or 8, and I thought I was doing something good by finding the used needles in the projects and then bringing them home to my mother, like, Mom, look at, to get rid of them.
She must have had a fucking heart attack,
like,
bro.
My full name. Alfred, don't take this stuff out of there anymore. And I was like, what? I was cleaning up. Man,
Right.
she hated it.
Lord have mercy.
How dangerous was that? I would be like, what? I would lose my shit if my kids did something like that today.
Right. And that's the time period. No, I don't think AIDS had hit like that. The AIDS panic and the AIDS epidemic.
But we knew about dirty needles and
Right.
how bad it was.
Hep C and all that, right?
Yeah.
Oh, my God, man.
What an era.
Yeah, it was an era, man. And I just remember so much about that. I remember my family, my parents having friends over who would get high, people nodding out and shit, and just really bugged out stuff. Our house being broken into, all these horrific things. So a lot of this I touch upon on that album. And
The 80s was the land of confusion at that time period.
Yeah, that's about right. But it's not like it was all bad. We had some of the best things ever.
Toys,
The entertainment at the time,
Cartoons.
just the music, the cartoons, the movies that were happening, and just the simplicity of the 80s, where it's like now, it's like right now, if I want to watch 5 million movies, any choice of 5 million movies, I go on this right here and just look at it right now. If we wanted to watch some shit back then, it's like, oh, let's open up the TV guide. Okay, we have to be in front of the TV at 8 p.m. tonight. And that's coming on.
Oh, yeah, HBO was like really premiere, like,
on a weekend, bro. On a weekend. Remember you get the free weekends at HBO?
Yeah.
The free weekends at HBO is dope. So Mom and Dad is based on a lot of that. You know what's crazy is you're the same as I am. We're definitely nostalgia junkies. Like we revere that time period so much, and it means so much to us that we constantly fixate on it. I feel like we always chase that. Like we get the action figures that we always wanted that we didn't have when we were kids. We rock a lot of the gear, the collections that we got, like my starter coat collection. You know what I'm saying?
Everything.
All these different things. You have the craziest collection of all different kinds of things, and we collect these things and chase these things. And I had a theory about that, because I'll even do things like I'll go back to the town where I grew up as a little boy, and I'll listen to certain songs, you know what I'm saying? Like 80s songs and things and I just drive around looking at places that I've been. And it's half dope and half sad.
I do the same thing too, because we're trying to bring back the memories that we had. I'm trying to.
Or the feeling. You're trying to get back that feeling,
So
a little
I go
spark
back,
of it.
And I go back to my old apartment where I lived, when we moved to Norwich, just to get that feel of like, damn, I lived here. I spent a lot of time here. And, I just stand around looking. And it's funny because I do it all the time.
Right.
All the time, hunting for that feeling I once had.
Do you know what I call it? I call it chasing ghosts.
Yeah.
Because when I go back to these towns, a lot of these things aren't even fucking there. Places that you ate at, the place where I grew up, right next to Tiffany, right? Tiffany and her sister Tanya and her mom Thelma, they lived right there. And that place where I grew up is demolished. It's not even there anymore. It's like a new condo thing that was built right over it. And that was a wild time to grow up, man. That was a crazy thing. And then you go back there, you try to get ahead of that. And I remember I drove back through there and I looked and I saw the thing was gone. I'm like, what the fuck am I even doing here? Like, you chase ghosts. You chase these things that aren't even real and there anymore. But that nostalgia is real, man. And we have a nostalgia for that time period. Speaking of the 80s, one of the things that pisses me off is like when I watch movies like Paid in Full, right, with Cam in it. Movie's dope. I kind of like the acting. The thing that pisses me off about a lot of movies and a lot of shows, they do not get the gear right. Like
the era?
They don't get the era right. You see people wearing baggy shit, certain baggy things that we didn't wear, and the clothes look too brand new. They also had this hip hop show. They had this show, I think, on fucking Netflix. I don't remember what it was called, but it was about the beginning. It was about like Grandmaster Flash.
Was it the origins of hip hop? That was A&E.
No, this was a drama thing. It wasn't a documentary. It was like a drama thing. It was about like teenagers in New York, and it was like Grandmaster Flash. There was a character for him. You know what I'm saying? And the thing that was crazy to me is just, imagine this. Imagine me and you literally teleported back to the 80s right now. and you saw everybody wearing shit that looked fresh off the rack, fresh off the box, brand new sneakers out the box, brand new head to toe, 80s, 80s, 80s. It didn't fucking look like that. People's stuff was worn. You tried to make it as fly as you could. And who did have the brand newest shit? Only drug dealers. That's it. Everybody
drug
else,
dealers, yeah.
Everybody else. You try to keep your shit fly. You clean your sneakers. You do all your shit.
But clean your kids.
Right. And at the end of the day, people were wearing weird shit. Because you see these fucking shows and they're like wearing a brand new fucking Adidas zip-up suit and all this. Bro, sometimes people wore a weird thing. You wear a fucking bandana tied around your arm. You know what I'm saying? A weird cutoff shirt that was tricolors with jeans that didn't match and some weird boots and then a weird belt. People dress fucking weird in the 80s.
We had a lot of pastel colors too back in the 80s. Everything wasn't bright red and orange and blue. Those weren't really popping back then.
Right.
It was weird colors, tight ass pants, tight ass shirts.
Early 80s was just, it looked like a wash of the 70s. You know what I'm saying? And then towards the end of the 80s, early 90s, all those pastels and the fly shit started to come in.
I remember the high top. I had a high top around 89. I was like,
high top fade, bro?
Yeah.
Word?
Yeah, Big Daddy Kane solidified that. I was, had the high top.
Little step in it? You had a step in that joint? Yep. That's dope, man.
Before the braids came, I had the high top.
That's dope, man. I remember having spiked hair. I'm a white guy. I had a spiked hair, you know what I'm saying? The Bart Simpson shit.
I had the Bart Simpson shirts, the black Bart Simpson shirts.
I had black Bart Simpson shirts too. I had a Jordan, the black Bart Jordan.
Those are so classics, man. 89 was like the start of the hip hop era, of my era.
I had Skids pants and that was my outfit.
I
remember
Skids.
Bart Simpson shirt, black Bart, white shirt.
Yes.
I had on black and white checkered Skids.
Me
and then
too.
I had Air Force, the Force joints, the Nike Air, not the Air Force Ones, the other, I can't think of them right now. It just said Force on the tongue. Remember what I'm talking about?
No, because I was too...
the flights.
I was too poor for the record. I had Voights. I had Bobos.
I had Voights though too.
It was like Skids.
Right. I had Voights, but that Voights were when I was a little bit younger.
You can get sneakers or you can get Skids. Skids it is.
Right. Yeah.
That's how it was. Shit.
Yo, me and Dwayne used to switch clothes and borrow clothes too. So like Dwayne had this dope ass, it was a denim overall set. It was black and it was overall shorts and it had the LA Kings logo on the chest. I gotta call Dwayne. I'm gonna fucking call Dwayne and I'm gonna tell, I swear to God, it was black denim overalls with shorts and a fucking LA Kings logo.
And you remember the style was you only had one buckle.
One buckle. That was it. You couldn't wear two buckles. You look crazy. You would look crazy. You got to have one buckle unbuckled.
Shit,
that's how it was done.
This is classic old school, man.
Yo, you remember rolling your pants at the ankles?
You kind of fold them, then roll them up.
Fold, right, right. That was dope. The Lotto sneakers and the fucking
couldn't
all
afford
that
them.
shit.
I wanted them, but I couldn't afford them.
Yeah, a lot of the shit I couldn't. You know what I did have though? Some of the stuff I did have. Troop was really early. That was early 80s.
But Troop defined like you were a breakdancer. Like, oh, you had the Troops on.
Right. I remember I had British Knights, which were starting to be whack.
89 was BKs. The big
BKs.
B on the side.
Yeah.
Those are dope. I'd wear a pair of those today. I don't care.
Right. Yeah.
I would.
BK
Listen,
Knights, bro.
I am so sure of myself. I'd wear a pair of Voights if they made them today.
What's the California shit that I'm thinking of? Something. I'm having.
Are they sneakers?
I think so. Wait a minute.
LA gear.
LA gear. You got it, bro. That was it.
They were like, LA gear reminded me like of flashier Jordans because they were like, they had a design that was like Jordans.
Yeah, that's kind of right. Yeah.
They were just like a flashier Jordans, in my opinion.
I did have a pair of black tops, the Reebok black tops. They were the white ones, though, with the black tongue that said black top embroidered on it. That was just a dope time for fashion because it felt so serious. You know what I mean? Just everything was dope. And that was the Jordan. We got to, you guys got to understand how magic that is. We got to watch Jordan's empire be built from the ground fucking up, bro. The Jordan logo be born. And I remember I remember kids used to pay me to on the cover of your book, when you covered your book with a paper bag, brown paper bag,
yeah.
I would draw the Jordan logo. And people would give me money. Here's what I would draw. I would do the Jordan logo because I was dope at drawing. Ice Cube. I would draw Ice Cube. I would draw him with the angry face with his eyebrows and his fucking mustache. And I would draw Sometimes he'd have the Jerry curls. Sometimes it would be the Predator with the backwards bandana. You know what I'm saying? But I would draw on people's books, man. People would give me like $0.25 or $1 to hook their book up.
This is old school.
It is super old school, but it was dope, man. That was a dope time, man. It was really fun, man. I truly missed the 80s and the 90s, bro.
So your album's going to come up in
June 13th.
June 13th.
2025.
All right. What do you think about it? What do you think?
I love it, man. I love it. There's a lot of pain and interesting energy that went into that album.
How many tracks we have on the album?
I don't fucking know.
Okay, here's
12, probably 12.
Here's a trick question. What is your favorite track on the album?
Probably the title track, Mom and Dad. That was one that it's simple. It's a very simple writing style and a very simple flow that I have, but I'm in love with it. And that song, I think I've said this. That song brought out a lot of raw emotions. Writing it, I was leaking. You know what I'm saying? Recording it, leaking. My voice is cracking. I had to wait. It was to the point because there were certain things I say in there talking about seeing drug use when I was a kid with you know in my house and all these things and all these fucked up things that and being poor and all these things happening that really fucked me up.
Well, you know, we're both products of the 80s and products of poverty.
Right.
We have a lot of traumatic experiences. These are facts.
Right.
How do we make it to this day to where we are today? I don't know.
I don't know, man.
I don't know.
But you and I, everything about us that you and I do with our ADHD, with the way we move, a lot of that was born out of what we went through.
Correct.
Right? The trauma forms you as a kid, which is interesting. And sometimes it gives you, you know, crippling debilitations. Sometimes it gives you superpowers. There's superpowers that I feel we have.
I agree. I mean, I can't keep my energy bottled up. It's always loose. Always.
Same with me, man. There's certain things, just the analytical aspects. You know, you go through trauma, you go through really hard mental things. And let's say if you're a child, you don't feel safe, you don't feel secure, things are fucked up for you. You start to get a sixth sense of what's safe around you. So you start to read between the lines. You can read people. You look at people, you know automatically if they're a piece of shit, if they're kind of foul. You get this sixth sense, like you can read people because you had to adapt to that when you were a kid because you had to check out who you felt safe around, what was okay. Right. You were always looking for those cues or not to be around when the adults are in a certain mood. So you was always hyper vigilant. That's me, and that's a lot of people I know from talking to them and building them. It's interesting in these times and days, in the 2020s, how important and normalized mental health has gotten. And I love that. I love that for us. I love that for the future generations. I don't give a fuck anymore. I don't think anxiety or depression or sadness is soft and below us to talk about. I love talking about it.
The one thing I have that we all deal with is from the traumas and from ADHD is saying things and later on regretting them or what do we call that? Sensitive?
Emotional regulation.
Emotional dysregulation?
Yeah, we're dysregulated.
So when that happens every now and then, of course, I'm always like hours later, like, oh shit, I shouldn't have said that. But more than likely, I'm always standing on business. Like I don't go too far where I'm like regretful sitting there in bed later.
I do. Yeah, I turn up.
I might think about it for a minute. Yeah. Like
I know. I kind of know it in the moment too, a little bit. Somewhere that little voice.
Yeah. But I'm like, I don't give a shit. I'm sharing it because I don't care. I want it out.
Right.
And usually, I don't regret it later.
Yeah, emotional dysregulation is wild, man. Yo, you know what I wanted to say too about the 80s? When you remember fucking daytime television for us? You remember having to stay home from school or staying home from school like you're sick?
It was horrible because you had to watch daytime television of your parents and grandparents.
So what did that mean though? That was a few shows, let's say.
Well, we know one, okay?
Yep.
Wheel. No, excuse me. No. That would have been Price is Right.
Right. Come on down.
11 o'clock a.m.
Do you know this? First of all, I know you don't like Price is Right. I'm a fucking fanatic. I still to this day.
I hate Price is Right.
I've been on a traveling Price is Right. I won, and I still to this fucking day, I watch Price is Right constantly.
I hate it. I'm like
Drew Carey. Shout out to Drew Carey. I watch Price is Right. Fucking Plinko. You know what I did not do though when I was on the Price? First of all, I didn't go up as a contestant. I randomly won at the end of Price. But You know what I always wanted to do? I've never spun the wheel, bro.
Now that would be cool. Spinning the wheel would be dope.
Do you know if the wheel's set at 100, the dollar where you want to be, right?
Right.
Do you know who consistently hits the dollar the most?
Who?
Little tiny grandmas who have no muscle. They go, and then the wheel goes slowly around and it comes back and hits that fucking dollar. Yeah. The guys who are like, oh, fucking, the wheel goes.
Yep. Then
it almost never hits the dollar for them.
I would do that though. I would jump up to as high as I could. So as my body brings it down, like I'm gonna try to break it. So I already know what I'm gonna do. They're gonna be like, cut. Get him out of here. Right.
But that's so funny because I would do the same thing. Even knowing what I know, I couldn't in all good conscience be like,
no.
Bleep, 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 bleep,
and I'm a jokester, and you know we got problems, so we always gotta fuck around. So I'm gonna fuck around and find out.
It's funny because I would love for I'd be looking at the wheel and Drew Carey would be like, hey, you have anybody you want to say hi? I'm like, I don't fucking know. I'd say I curse a lot. If you guys haven't noticed, I can't even help it. I curse a lot. And
I'd be cursing on purpose and stuff.
Right.
I'd be wilding out.
You get killed off. They'd be like,
yep, cut.
Yeah, the best live time in television. But it's dope, man. Price is Right is dope. I also want to play that game Plinko.
Plinko's dope, yeah.
Yeah, Plinko, you drop the thing.
Yep. Hit the 10,000 mark. So what else was they playing during the daytime shows? A General Hospital. You always had to have
soap operas.
Oh, those are the worst.
Fucking hated soap operas, bro. If you had like an aunt or a babysitter who during the day watched soap operas, you were fucked, man. It was terrible for you. You hated it. And
I should be at school right now.
Right.
It was that bad.
Yeah, it was terrible.
There's no entertainment in soap operas.
And then you remember what else there was? There'd be like a lot of black and white reruns. Like there'd be like Perry Mason.
And all the commercials were just as bad too.
Oh yeah.
Get a little closer with Air It Extra Dry.
It was always home cleaning products. And then it would be like law firms. Like, have you been affected by mesothelioma?
Oh, we still get those.
We still get those, right? Yeah. But back then they had those, but a lot of cleaning products, bro.
It was crazy, man. Crazy
cleaning products, man. Yeah, it's crazy, bro. I wish the 80s were back. I wish I could teleport back to the fucking 80s. If somebody came to you, dead ass, right? Think about this, really. If somebody came to you and said, all right, Al Mayo, here is a fucking suitcase with $5 million, or here is a trip back to 1984, and you can go back as you with your cognitive ability back into your little kid shit and live the whole thing again. What would you do? 5 mil or the 80s? I'm
not going back to do this over again. No way.
5 million. Let's get the fuck out of here.
I'll deal with my trauma with this $5 million.
I'll sit around and watch. I'll romanticize and go through nostalgic trips and watch all the shit I want to. But fuck that.
I'll buy everything I need. I'm not going back to live that again. Hell no.
You know what I wish you could make? You know how like right now, like if I wanted to make a playlist of 80s songs, I wish I could make a playlist, YouTube or iTunes or whoever makes the movies. You guys got to come up with a way for people to make playlists. Because you know what I wish I could do? I wish I could go on YouTube or watch the movies or some shit like that. Have like some 80s shows, like 80s shows, right? And then put commercials in between. You know what I mean? Like you build a playlist. Like you take the video of a Toll House cookie commercial. Then you take the video of like a Nissan commercial from 1987. And then it goes back to your show, which is like...
I've seen that. They've had those. On YouTube, they have like...
Oh, yeah, full uninterrupted.
Yes, correct.
Sure.
And then the commercials are through them or whatever.
I wish you could build your own, though. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, I wish I had a playlist in my movie section where I could go through these shows and you know, blend them into another. You know what I mean?
What was your favorite cartoon commercial back then? So that was for a toy.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So like G.I. Joe, the commercials for G.I. Joe.
All the G.I. Joe ones, because you would see the kids playing with those sets, and then they would intercut in between the cartoons and everything like that, and it was fire. But I liked all of them, man. I always thought, I would always stop and watch whatever the fuck it was, even if it was like some other shit, like Wuzzles. You know what I'm saying? Like
Manchichis.
Manchichis, right. You know what I'm saying? Like any of those ones.
What were the ones where the guys were in the water? Snorks?
Snorks. The motherfuckers would eat kelp.
The fucking water Smurfs. That's
right,
what we
the
call
water
them.
Smurfs. They were the water Smurfs for all intents and purposes. Anyway, man, let's get the fuck up out of here, bro. I don't even know what to say anymore. But anyway, Shorecast. This is my brother, Big Al Mayo.
What up, guys? What up?
I'm Apathy, and we loved having y'all. Peace.
Peace out.